Today, the nation of Uganda joins the rest of the international community to do a candlelighting for those that have departed, and also to renew our commitment as we face the scourge of HIV and AIDS. We want to thank you for gathering us here. And Lord, we pray that you will be present with us in this function, but also for the days ahead, that we will be able to overcome in your name. We thank you and praise you. Amen.
Let's put our hands together for the wonderful prayer. And as we welcome the Honorable Minsa Kabanda, who is Minister in charge of Kampala City and Metropolitan Affairs, Office of the President. You're most welcome, our chief guest. With her, we also want to welcome the dignitaries here. Honorable Alice Kavoyo, Minister of State in charge of Luero and Rwenzori, Office of the Prime Minister. You're most welcome. Also, we have the representative of the U.S. Ambassador in Uganda. You're most welcome. And the lady who will be giving us the keynote presentation today, Reverend Dr. Lydia Kitaimbwa. And all the guests here, you may be seated. All of us kindly let's have our seats. Honorable Minister, I want to, on behalf of the team here, welcome you. We have been eagerly looking forward to your arrival, and we are happy that you've come in time, and starting with the other activities, including the inspection of the stalls. We have a number of services that are available. We have Uganda Cares tent, we have the IDI tent, and we have the UPDF tent, and they are offering different services, as you may have seen during the tour. Honorable, today is an important day. It's a day when we commemorate the International Candlelight Memorial 2023, and it is a day when we remember the lives of all those who have gone ahead of us, but those who have been instrumental in one way or the other in the fight against the scourge. Before you came, Honorable, there was an interesting, exciting presentation. A number of presentations have been had here, but one of them talked about the message in summary of today's commemoration. We are targeting by 2030 zero discrimination, zero related deaths, zero new infections. And that's why you're here to speak, among other people, to those messages. And the young people have said these are achievable, but that what is needed to be done, that it needs the effort of all of us. And Honorable Minister, we have amidst us, apart from the persons that have already recognized, we have a number of schools, 8 universities here. We have many secondary schools represented. We have our host, Kitante Primary School. I think the hosts have to stand up to be recognized by the Honorable Minister. This is your Minister for Kampala. And yes, those are the guys who are hosting us. And Honorable Minister, all the guests, we have already recognized them. Honorable Minister, we are talking of infection standing at 54,000 per year in this country. We are talking of 1,090 new infections weekly, and we are talking of about 1.4 million people documented living with HIV/AIDS currently in Uganda. Allow me now, Honorable Minister, start by inviting the speakers, I will invite Pastor Dr. Moses Maka, the president of the Uganda Union of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, to come and, on behalf of the Interreligious Council of Uganda, welcome all of us and give us a message. Doctor, you're most welcome.
Our guest of honor, Honorable Mr. Kabanda, who is representing Her Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ministers here present, Honorable Members of Parliament, the Chairman and Director General, Uganda AIDS Commission, our keynote address speaker, the AIDS development partners here present, esteemed religious and cultural leaders, district leaders here present, members of the civil society, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. We stand here on behalf of the Interreligious Council to bring you greetings from a body that unites all major faiths in Uganda to address issues of common concern. A guest of honor, for hundreds of years, lighting candles has been a way to show respect to those who have departed, but also a sign to show a heritage gone and a new dawn. This beautiful gesture shows that although someone may have gone from this world, their memory will endure, and the light of their flame will continue to inspire and guide others. Today, we join the government of Uganda and all our partners to commemorate this Candlelight Memorial Day under the theme Ending AIDS by 2030, Communities Leading in HIV Prevention and Care. I therefore want to take this moment to invite all of us here to stand up for a silence in memory of those who have died of HIV/AIDS. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Thank you. You may be seated. Our guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, we're here once again, first to support those who are living with HIV and AIDS, and to recall those who have departed from us. Equally, we want, as religious leaders, to acknowledge the pain of those who have loved them and those who have cared for them that have departed. Our guest of honor, the current HIV/AIDS pandemic in our country and in our local communities places upon all of us a moral and pastoral obligation. This obligation is to respond with care and compassion to individuals suffering from this disease and also to the society threatened by it. However, in order for us to fulfill this obligation, the heart of our response must be of respect for the value of human life and for the dignity of the human person, because both are bestowed by God. We have the responsibility to continue to educate the community on what the disease of HIV and how HIV/AIDS is contracted and spread, so that everyone recognizes and accepts their moral responsibility in halting its spread, as well as their obligation to help those suffering from it. While it's understandable that there is fear and uncertainty among us about this disease as a deadly one, we call upon all members of our society to relate to people living with HIV and AIDS with compassion and understanding, as they would to those suffering from any other disease. Since HIV is transmitted through intravenous drug, use and sexual practices, among others, our obligation and our policies, our guidelines must respect the inalienable right of parents and families to be the first educators of their children regarding the meaning and the purpose of human sexuality. As religious leaders, we are willing to join other people and partners of goodwill in dialogue about how and such understanding of human sexuality might be communicated in our schools, in our communities, and elsewhere. We believe that there are certain basic values present in our society that transcend religious or sectarian boundaries, and that can constitute a common basis for those social efforts. And to those generations of the young, we are aware that the obstacle to human integrity, of which we speak, are especially daunting today for our young people. Yet all of us see in these young people the hope for our future. As Pope John Paul once said in 1987, when he said, "The future of the world shines in your eyes. Even now, you're helping to shape the future of society." That, therefore, underlines how necessary it is that the rest of us, young people, live faithful and responsible lives. I am happy to see all the young people here present, a gesture that the world and the candle is given as a hope to all of you who are here present for our future tomorrow. Therefore, as adults, for our part, we must actively support the young people and not stand by idly while the media and other social influences overwhelm them with uncensored and immoral messages. Our guest of honor and partners here present, as religious leaders, we have noticed with concern a number of obstacles that threaten our efforts to end AIDS as a public threat that needs our serious attention and reflection. The continued culture of abusive behavior through drug and substance abuse, sexual promiscuity in this country, and limited education about HIV/AIDS in large segments of our population continues to foster its spread and misunderstanding about this epidemic. The presence of technology that has often outpaced reflections, yet religious education that supports the study of ethics, has been neglected in school curricula as an optional subject. We have also noted that some public campaigns often promote solutions that are contrary to morality and against human dignity. Similarly, people living with HIV still suffer from stigma, discrimination, disrespect, violence, and inhuman treatment. Finally, reduced global financing of HIV and AIDS response and the lack of locally owned financing mechanisms continue to pose a serious threat to our response to this scourge. In conclusion, guest of honor, as instruments of light that comes from one who came to give life in his fullness, we commit ourselves to provide leadership and structures capable of influencing and mobilizing faith communities for our country. Let us all continue to show our support to people living with HIV and AIDS as we light the candles of hope that will brighten our future and in turn motivate individuals, families, and communities. Through our continued partnership, we will overcome HIV/AIDS come 2030 for God and my country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Dr. Moses. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a bigger clap. Our chief guest, I forgot one thing and I would like to ask for forgiveness. I want to introduce my colleague with whom I am managing this day. May I request, she is also a Her Excellency in her own right, the Vice Guild President of Makerere University Business School, Nakawa, Lenia Charity, and I'm working closely with her. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, allow me recognize the presence of the Minister of State, Ministry of Health, Honorable Hanifa Kawoya, MP. She has just honored this function with her presence and representing the Ministry of Health. She is also the minister holding the portfolio of health. You're most welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now invite the head teacher of Kitante Primary School, who is hosting us here, to come and make some quick remarks. Madam, you're most welcome. Let's put our hands together to welcome her.
Thank you so much. High Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, represented by the Honorable Minister for Kampala Affairs and Metropolitan Areas, Hajiat Misa Kabanda, Minister of Health in charge of health duties, ministers around, honorable members of Parliament, United Nations Resident Coordinator, Executive Director of Uganda AIDS Commission, development partners, ladies and gentlemen. I take this opportunity to welcome all of you to Kitante Primary School. As an institution, we are proud of hosting such a wonderful function. Thank you, the organizers, for choosing Kitante Primary School to host you. I condole with all those who might have lost their dear ones. as a result of HIV and AIDS and other related diseases. May the Lord strengthen you. And for those who attained success, we praise the Almighty God for that. Kitante Primary School is a government-aided school that was started in 1968. Those are 55 years back. This is purely a government-aided school, UPE school. Kitante Primary School has a very big enrollment of 3,640 pupils. I think it's one of the biggest UPE schools in the country, of whom 1,772 are males and 1,868 are females. The above enrollment is a clear evidence that the school has fully embraced the policy of universal primary education, UPE. Our chief guest today, we have a very big staff to handle that big enrollment, and we have 63 teachers who are paid. This is the teaching staff paid by the government, who are on the government payroll. We thank the government for that support. And we have 29 support staff, technical and support staff. The school has high enrollment due to various reasons that I'm going to mention below. One, the strategic position and consistent, excellent academic performance in all government-aided schools in the country. We always perform well. And in this school, we don't get failures. All the children who sit for primary living examinations do pass to secondary schools. And we always make a follow-up, because these children perform even when they reach secondary schools. Various co-curricular activities that enable our pupils to stay in schools. We do co-curricular activities. We are not only looking at academics, but we engage our learners in sports and games, music, dance, drama and poetry, in which we talk about the killer diseases like HIV, AIDS, and this is done every Friday of the week. We always have our assemblies here, and we talk about it. The teachers do that. Parents always come in, so our children are aware of that deadly disease. This success has been attributed to the hardworking staff and the support that we always get from KCCA, our supervisors. So we are really grateful, and the organizations that always come in to give support to the staff, to the children, and to the parents. We are really grateful to all those organizations that always come in. Our chief guest, as a school, though we've talked about those very good things, we have only one challenge, I should say, the major one. We have many, but the major challenge is lack of space. As we said, there are very many pupils in the school, so each stream, not a class, but a stream, has more than 175 pupils. So our classes are really so big, and it's not easy for the teachers to handle, but we are trying our best, our chief guest. We are looking forward to joining hands in the fight of AIDS and have a Uganda-free HIV and AIDS in 2030. As a school, we are really trying our best. And the struggle continues for greater horizons. Thank you so much for listening to me. May the good Lord protect you while here, for God and my country. Thank you.
A host deserves a bigger clap, ladies and gentlemen. And we are enjoying the air here. Thanks for keeping it well. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now invite the chairman of the board of the Uganda AIDS Commission, Dr. Eddie, to come and talk to us. You're most welcome, Doctor. Let's energize him.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Before I begin, I would like to recognize the Minister for Kampala, who is representing the Vice President of Uganda, His Excellency Major Retired Jessica Alupo. Let's give Honorable Kabanda a big welcome clap. She's been accompanied by the Minister for Ruwero. Please, most welcome. I need also to recognize the Minister for Health, Honorable Kawoya. You're most welcome. We have the representative of Uganda Embassy, who is represented, the ambassador is represented by the head of PEPFAR. Most welcome. Of course, we must recognize the UN resident coordinator, who is always supporting our efforts. Most welcome. Members of Parliament who are present, Country Director UNAIDS, please, most welcome. Representatives of people living with HIV, most welcome. Students from various institutions who are present. We have the Interreligious Council. I think you heard the speech from the Interreligious. You're most welcome and your team. We have board members of Uganda AIDS Commission. Please stand up for recognition. This is the team that I work with. The media who are present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It is more than 30 years since the first case of AIDS was reported in Kalisizo Hospital in Uganda. At that time, there was no treatment, and having AIDS meant you were going to die. During this time, we lost many people who were productive and in their prime of their lives. These people were also our fathers, mothers, uncles, aunties, brothers, sisters. This is why we commemorate the International Candle Day. The International Candlelight Day is a day when we remember the loved ones we lost to AIDS. It is also a day when we reflect on our personal behaviors and actions with a view to renewing our commitment to HIV prevention. International Candlelight Memorial Day is commemorated globally on the third Sunday in May. Our theme this year is Ending AIDS by 2030. Communities leading to HIV prevention and care. This is because communities have been at the forefront of the fight against HIV/AIDS. We also believe that lasting solutions to HIV prevention and ending AIDS are within the communities. As I conclude, I urge you to commemorate this day personally by lighting a candle in memory of the loved ones you lost to AIDS. I also urge you to reflect on your behavior and commit to changing them where necessary to prevent HIV. This way we will be able to achieve our goal of ending AIDS as a public threat by 2030. I salute all the partners who are working with Uganda AIDS Commission in the sectoral, in the multi-sectoral approach. High on the list is the armed forces. Please stand up for recognition. And all those that are present, we thank you. And my name is Dr. Eddie Mukoyo, Chairman, Uganda AIDS Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, dear doctor. Right about now, we are going to have an entertainment, short one, from the team from Uganda Cares. Uganda Cares, kindly, if you're ready, please come through. Once again, our dear esteemed guests in your respective capacities, you're very much welcome. Thank you for honoring the invite and coming through. Thank you so much. This is the team from Uganda Cares. A round of applause for them, please.
Dear community, at the end of the day, we are all one family. That's to play and actions in our own way. Our strength combined and unity divine can lead us to an HIV-free generation if we all join hands together.
Dear schools, why don't we encourage sexuality education and help our children make better informed decisions about their sexual health?
Dear parents, homes are the first grooming places for us. Why don't we prioritize our abilities and teach us the right way to prepare for the right future?
Dear religious leaders, it is your responsibility to protect the health of your congregation. Can we encourage safe sex practices and advise people to seek for health care services?
Dear healthcare providers, please do not stigmatize us when we come to you. We love to be treated without judgment, whether family planning, condom use, HIV testing, and everything else.
And last but not least, our young people. Seek information, take charge of your sexual health, demand for spaces, and let your voices be heard.
For us all, we can collectively end AIDS by 2030. We are powerful together, stronger together, and bigger together. Let's rise to our responsibilities upon us and make our society a better future.
Thank you so much, Uganda Cares. That was extremely, very beautiful. Dear our guests, just like I said earlier on, I'm encouraged, I'm enthused by the fact that majority of the people here today are youth. And remember, the leading community, yes, we are ending AIDS by 2030, and they contribute a lot when it comes to that factor. So I'm very glad that majority of us here today are youth, and yes, it starts with us, the community. Let's fight so hard to make sure that we are ending AIDS by 2030. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Charity, and thanks to the Uganda Cares entertainers. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite the Dr. Watiti Stephen, a representative of the people living with HIV. Let's clap for them and let's invite Doctor. Let's welcome him with a thunderous clap. Their struggles, their energy, their commitment is a major reason why we are scaling back on infection, and they are doing a good job. We thank you for your commitment to your struggle, Doctor. You're most welcome to make remarks.
Thank you very much. Our guest of honor, our Minister of Health, all dignitaries here, all protocol observed. My simple job today is to introduce our young man here, who is going to make a statement on behalf of the over 1.4 million Ugandans who are living with HIV. Let's listen to him.
All protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen, my greetings. A warm, beautiful morning to us all. My name is Emojel Trevor, the reigning National Mr. Y Plus 2022-2023, and also the Country Youth Coordinator, AHF Uganda Cares. I am a young person living with HIV. I stand here to present a statement that has been developed by we, people living with HIV, through our national network, the Uganda Network of Young People Living with HIV, and the National Forum for People Living with HIV in Uganda. Therefore, this is a voice of all people living with HIV in their different diversities. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate the government of Uganda through the Uganda AIDS Commission for the great milestones that have been registered in the 40 years of the HIV response in the country. Over the years, we have seen and appreciated remarkable trends and changes in treatment, care, and support of people living with HIV, and as a result of research, political will, and great coordination. Every year, the International AIDS Candlelight Memorial is held to remember and celebrate the lives of people lost to AIDS, and in honor of those who have dedicated their lives in supporting people living with HIV and affected by HIV, and to build solidarity in our communities. This Candlelight Memorial is the 40th of the kind, and the theme for the year is Ending AIDS by 2030, Communities Leading in HIV Prevention and Care. This comes as a reminder of our efforts and the purpose of working in solidarity in the HIV response through empowering the communities to take the lead, but also own the HIV response in the country. However, the community of people living with HIV is still facing challenges which we believe, if not addressed, can be a major hindrance to their participation and contribution in the HIV response. Stigma and discrimination still remains a major barrier to access and utilization of HIV services. We are grateful for the launch of HIV stigma and discrimination policy and guidelines. However, there is still a lot of work to be done. There are significantly low levels of treatment literacy among people living with HIV across the country, which in turn translates into poor adherence and low retention of care by people living with HIV. Punitive and criminalization laws remain a major barrier among the people living with HIV and key population communities. For example, the anti-homosexuality bill that is before Parliament, criminalizing even access to services. We recommend the following to lead through the process of ending AIDS by 2030. Number one, increase domestic funding for the HIV/AIDS response. Our government should take responsibility for this response and have our HIV Trust Fund operationalized to that effect. The criminalization of HIV by clauses in the HIV Control and Prevention Act of 2014 should be amended to remove criminalization of HIV transmission so that efforts made are not in vain and are not counterproductive. There is dire need for the implementation / expansion of treatment literacy interventions among people living with HIV across the country. Rollout of the commitment of the Global Partnership to End HIV Stigma and Discrimination in the various settings, such as the workplace, household, education, and justice for all. Invest in stigma reduction interventions and best practices, such as the Y+ Beauty Pageant, a campaign that is aimed at recognizing the effectiveness of HIV treatment as young people are empowered through the campaign to challenge stigma and discrimination, but also have a purpose in life by living to their maximum abilities. Meaningful representation and involvement of people living with HIV in decision processes is critical to enable young people participate effectively in decision-making of processes that affect their lives. We also have supporting networks of people living with HIV to build capacities of constituencies to enable meaningful participation in different decision-making processes. We call on stakeholders to improve access to justice through provision of pro bono services, linkages, and referrals for services, but also empowering the community of people living with HIV to speak up when they are subjected to violence. Implement initiatives aimed at creating safer school environments to enable young people living with HIV access education and thrive equally, just like their HIV-free colleagues. And ladies and gentlemen, finally, in conclusion, let this day rejuvenate us and increase our efforts in the response as a country, partners and allies, as not as opponents to the response. The changes we celebrate today are of efforts that were started off 40 years ago. So it is not tomorrow, but now that we should make the most use, because tomorrow is not promised. Thank you, everybody. I remain Imojel Trevor, the reigning Mr. Y+ 2022-2023, for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Trevor, Dr. Watiti, Canon. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put up our hands again to thank them. Great courage, great fight, great struggle, and it is our struggle. It is a national struggle. It is a global struggle. Trevor, thank you very much indeed, and may God bless you and give you more energy. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me recognize the presence of a very instrumental fighter, a partner with government of Uganda, the UN family, represented by the resident coordinator, Susan Namondo. Namondo, you're most welcome. Before she comes to talk to us, we have some entertainment. Allow me now invite to give us more entertainment the host, Kitante Primary School. As they come, allow me recognize Mr. Musoke Tadeus Nagenda, Chairman of Kasita, Uganda. Kasita, you're most welcome. And we recognize that in achieving zero discrimination, in achieving zero related deaths, zero new infections, the business community is a very instrumental community. This year's theme is focusing on the community and the role that they play in achieving the target towards ending discrimination, stigma, new infections by the year 2030. So we welcome you here, Kasita, and we recognize your presence. We are going to have other messages after this entertainment. Kitante, remember, we would like to have the best of the entertainment, but I'm giving you only 10 minutes. So whatever you are doing, kindly think of time. At primary level, Kitante already has doctors and nurses, as you can see in the game.
Out there somewhere, alone and frightened, oh, the darkness, the days are long, life in hiding, now I'm making new contact, now more loving arms thrown around my neck.
Take my hand now, I'm tired and lonely. Give me love, give me hope. Don't desert me, don't reject me. All I need is love and understanding.
Today is me, tomorrow's someone else. It's me and you, we gotta stand up and fight. We'll share a light in the fight against hate. Let's come on out, let's come together, fight hate. In times of joy, in times of sorrow, let's take a stand and fight unto the end. With open hearts, let's stand up and speak out to the world. We'll save some lives, save the children of the world. Let's be open, advise the young ones, a new generation to protect and love. Hear them singing, playing, laughing. Let's give them everything in truth and love.
Take the message, cross the frontier, break the barrier, we'll fight together. Doors are open, we'll lead the struggle. We won't bow down, we will fight on.
Today is me, tomorrow's someone else. It's me and you, we gotta stand up and fight. We shed a light in the fight against hate. Let's come on out and stand together, fight hate. In times of joy, in times of sorrow, let's take a stand and fight unto the end. We open hearts, let's stand up and speak out to the world. We'll save some lives, save the children of the world.
A round of applause once again for Kitante Primary School, our host school today. Thank you so much for hosting us today. For those who have been following, let me hope that you've picked out the message that they have been preaching to us today. I could see very many different sectors. I saw the registrar, I saw the doctors room, I saw very many different patients coming to doctors. That clearly depicts our health system in the country. That clearly depicts the doctor to patient ratio that we have in the country today. Dear Honorable Minsa Kabanda, I hope you were able to see this and maybe the different improvements that we need to do when it comes to the health sector. And lastly, their message in the song of coming together. At the end of the day, it is our responsibility as citizens of the country. All of us need to join hands and come together to make sure that we are ending HIV/AIDS by 2030, ending stigma and discrimination. No more transmission of HIV, no more deaths, no more stigma and discrimination. And yes, we are going to have a school debate. We are going to have a school debate, and I would love to take this opportunity to invite the person who is going to help us chair the debate. That is, he's the coordinator of the national debate, the chairperson, Paul Achaye. Please come through. A round of applause for Paul Achaye as he comes through. It's going to be an interesting debate. Kindly follow, kindly get engaged. Let's love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols in your various capacity. My name is Paul Achaye, and I am the director for the National Secondary Schools Debate Championship. And I am proud and humbled to be here with the members of the National Executive Committee, the president of the National Students Association, Mr. Bill Clinton, very much welcome. And the entire NEC members present, the members of the Secretariat, we thank you. We are here to be edutained by our students who have been doing debates across the country. For today, we are going to have students from Green Hill Academy. Please clap for them as they come. Green Hill Academy. Green Hill Academy will be debating against St. Mary's College Isubi. St. Mary's College Isubi, please, as you take up your seats. I am going to be judging the debate with a young lady. She's the vice president of the Pan-African Debate Council, Miss Ayebare Denise. Please clap for her as she comes. She's an activist for climate change as well, so I am going to be on panel with her. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Students Association, in the fight against HIV and stigma, has been running a countrywide debate in very many districts and involving a lot of students. These students have been taking part in this activity, and among some, we have some of our students who are going to be participating in the World's Debate in Vietnam this year, and that is very, very beautiful for us as the students' fraternity. The motion for our debate is a very important one. And this is it. In a bid to achieve Vision 2030, this House believes that young people have been sufficiently involved in the fight against HIV. We seek to interrogate the level of involvement of young people in the fight against HIV. So I invite all of us to enjoy the debate. Going forward, I and my colleague, Ms. Ayebare Denise, will sit out and adjudicate this very important debate. So as the team gets set, we will be off for the round. Please enjoy. Thank you. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have the first speaker from that team Green Hill debating in the affirmative. Please, you're going to use the podium over there. Let's welcome the first speaker for Green Hill. Thank you.
Okay, I'm starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. For over 30 years, Uganda has battled the HIV syndrome. However, it is one of Africa's hailed AIDS success stories. I propose. In a bid to achieve Vision 2030, this House believes that young people have been sufficiently involved in the fight against HIV or AIDS. Chair, this debate questions the affirmative team to show you or prove to you two things, right? One, we have to show you the fight against HIV AIDS, and you have to show that it has been sufficient and effective, right? Two, we have to show you that the young people have basically played a major role, or as the motions put it, they have sufficiently been involved in this fight, right? Two things you're going to get from my speech. One, I am going to show you the trend of HIV/AIDS infections in the country and basically how it has decreased. Two, I'm going to show you how this trend can mostly be credited or attributed to involvement of the young people, right? Chair, first of all, it is important to understand that on our side of the House, we're not ignoring the roles of other incentives or other stakeholders in this particular fight, right? That is to say, even when Team Negative comes and urges that, hey, we think that government or NGOs have played a major role in the fight against HIV/AIDS, that is not something we are completely putting out of the picture on the affirmative side. However, we think that this is out of context of the debate, and it doesn't answer the major question that this debate poses. Have young people been sufficiently involved in this fight? Chair, two major layers of analysis you're going to get from me, right? First of all, what young people looks like to us, right? We think that on our side of the House, young people are basically people who are encompasses the teens and people in the early 20s. So we're looking at the age gap of about 31 to 22. These are people who are mostly undergoing some level of education, and this is where HIV or AIDS prevention initiatives are most prominent, right? I'm going to show you why this is important on our side of the House. Second level of characterization, the idea of sufficiently involved, right? We think that when someone is sufficiently involved, young people have adequately been involved, and the impact of this is basically one, young people have in some way mitigated the spread of HIV or AIDS. Two, prevention of HIV/AIDS because of the involvement of young people has been made easier, right? Chair, first of all, back to our case, right? Chair, we think that the trend of HIV or AIDS in Uganda has reduced. Right? We think that reports have shown us that HIV/AIDS prevalence in the state have decreased from 18% in the mid-1990s to 6.4% in the early 2000s, right? And we think that majorly, with this reduction in HIV/AIDS prevalence, it has majorly reduced amongst the young people, where you have a decrease from 7.3% to 6.0%, right? Now to our case, three major arguments you're going to get from the affirmative side. One, we think that the young have been involved in this because there's a good reception of policies put in place by government, right? As much as government has put in place policies, we think that for the young people to come and actually step up and actually take in these policies has actually been an example of that sufficient involvement. Because notice that the government comes and introduces PRC in school, but they're not holding a gun to your head. It is the initiative of the young people, their particular involvement and commitment on an individual basis that has actually helped in this case. Two, we think that the active engagement of the young people in and itself in the
in programs like Mr. and Mrs. Y+, PSC, that have actually promoted awareness among themselves in competitions like this in and itself. This is something that has created awareness within the children. Last but not least, another analysis we're going to get from our side, right? We think that there's more vitally suppressed HIV positive young people than older ones, right? And I think this is something that can be credited to or shown like that, the involvement of young people. I rest my case.
We thank that speaker for that fine speech and would like to call upon the first speaker from Team Opposition. Here, here.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Dear panel, I would like to start with some bit of reaffirmation or clarification on this motion actually. Team Affirmative fails to understand that what this motion is actually trying to do is to show, is this actually, this participation or the fighting of this youth actually sufficient or significant? Has it actually made like reduction in the numbers? Because if you see in the current status quo, you're seeing that there are very many high numbers of youth who actually have HIV. Because with the statistics that we have read, we actually see that in the range of people who actually have HIV, it is the youth which actually have HIV the most, because the numbers are less in adults, the numbers are less in children, but they're actually high in these youths who actually have a lot of unprotected casual sex, dear panel. But basically, I would like to actually paint our world, dear panel. One thing you want actually to note in this debate, first and foremost, Vision 2030, dear panel. We realize that the Vision 2032 actually wants to actually make sure that there are no new HIV infections by the year 2030. That means that if we have minority groups of people or minority groups of young people who actually maybe actually still having this casual sex, they will actually be spreading this HIV and creating new infections. That means that goal of 2030 would actually be achieved. But secondly, dear upon one thing secondly to note is the criteria or the factors to consider if these young people are actually sufficiently involved. And that is, I'll take in my last minute. How do you actually know that these factors have actually, one thing to note is that have these people actually, are their actions actually sufficient, dear panel? How do you know that? We notice that by noticing the numbers in reduction or in increase. But dear panel, one thing you notice in the current status quo is that there are very high numbers of youth who actually have HIV as compared to the adults and the young people. So we do believe on that basis, we do realize that these people actually haven't been sufficient in the fight against HIV to Vision 2030. But secondly, the other thing, which I would like to move to is how do these people actually, I want to explain to you how have they actually been sufficient in this fight against HIV. I would like to talk about the high levels of casual sex. We do realize that the teen people, all these young people, are characterized as reckless people who are actually reckless and actually do actions on impulse. Who actually do things on impulse. These are people who actually like clubbing, characterize clubbing as actually having fun. So these are people who are actually going to go to clubs, drink alcohol under the influence and end up having unprotected sex, and this HIV spread is actually going to actually spread on a high basis. So we see in the world that these youth actually, they are spreading this awareness, but still on the other hand, we are seeing a high level of them actually involving themselves in unprotected sex because they are actually under the influence of alcohol. But secondly, on the fact of awareness, we do realize that this awareness is actually stopping in the central region because this awareness is basically done on social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook. We have our brothers and sisters who are actually staying in the remote areas and cannot actually receive this high awareness that they're talking about. We saw scenarios of high premarital sex or high pregnancy rates during COVID-19 when these children were actually bored or ignorant at home and they were actually having a lot of unprotected sex in the pleasure of having actually fun. And in my speech, basically what I've shown, I would like to task the team proposition to show us that how are they going to actually make this awareness reach in those remote areas. Thank you very much.
We thank that speaker for that speech. I would like to call upon the second speaker of team proposition. Here, here.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Resolved. This House believes that young people have sufficiently involved in the fight against HIV/AIDS. Dear panel, Our house comes and presents to you a world where we are aware that the youth have the largest number, yes, of HIV cases, but them having the largest number does not remove away the fact that they are sufficiently involved in the fight against HIV. They are actually trying to help themselves in this situation. We present to you a case where we know that the youth, yes, they are suffering, but we present to you policies like Mr. Y, Mr. and Mrs. Y, people who have actually taken the initiative among themselves as youths to reach out to other people and actually help them understand and fight against HIV. So we cannot eradicate the effort that has been put in by these people. Dear panel, the opposing house comes and tells you that we're looking at reckless people, reckless teenagers who take drinking for fun. But today, a proud person, Mr. Y, came here and stood here and represented the youth, and he spoke about HIV. So do we eradicate his efforts? Do we take away the fact that he has actually represented the youth and actually tried to fight against HIV? So we come and present to you a case. The youth have actually accepted the policies that have been put up for them. The PSC groups, yes, they come and they speak to you, but they do not point a gun to your head. The matter that our youths have actually accepted, they have accepted these policies provided to them, is proof enough that we are sufficiently involved. Look at this debate today. This debate has youths in it, young people in it. That is sufficiency enough. That is proof enough that yes, the young people are actually involved and they are sufficiently fighting against HIV. We cannot eradicate their efforts just because they are the biggest number. We are looking at this, they come and they present you statistics of how the youth are the most. The statistics do not count, they do not mean that the people are not involved. We present to you a world where the rates have actually increased from 7.3% cases to 6.0%. This is merely among the youth. That is a very big difference that cannot be eradicated. So we do not come here in a world of incompetent and very inhumane people to come and justify the fact that there have been youths who have actually tried to get help and aid for other people. There are youths today that go out and help out the other children who cannot afford the means that they have. I will take in my last minute. They cannot afford the things that other people have, and they go out of their way to actually support these people. So we do not eradicate their help and their sufficiency. Look at the statistics of the people that have HIV. These are people who are either born with HIV. This is marital sex. We're looking at sex workers. Young people are most young people are not married. They are born with HIV. So the fact that these children go out and have sex and choose to have HIV is wrong. Yes, may I take a reply? Oh, predicted time. Oh well. Yes, we're moving on. We provide you a world where the youth today, I inclusive, come here for this candlelight event, light a candle for the people that we have lost. 80% of the people in this congregation that I speak to right now are youths. We're not going to eradicate your efforts to come here and stand up and actually try to speak about HIV. Being in a world where we're trying to promote abstinence, the youths have contributed the most. With this, I rest my case.
We thank that speaker for that speech. I'd like to call upon the second speaker of Team Opposition. Here.
Can I be heard? I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So Chair, today I'm going to start off with a little bit of rebuttal, then I'm going to go into a rebuild of my case and give away. Now Chair, realizing their world where they actually come and say that the youths have actually committed they have actually reduced on the spread of HIV/AIDS. Chair, we have come here to actually question how effective has that decrease actually been in the long run? Because Chair, realize that the vision of today's debate is actually to achieve, is actually for the vision of 2030, where where we're actually reducing on the spread of AIDS totally. So with that actually being said, Chair, realize that in their world where we've actually characterized young people, and that's how it is in the current status quo. We come to see that the current young people in the world are actually the people who are actually increased on the spread of AIDS in society. And we have said that so because realize that
Point of information.
because realize that reckless people, because realize that young people are very reckless in a way that they respond to their
POI.
impulse and they react to that thinking. So that being said, it means that they make responsible decisions. So with that also being said, why do we believe that they haven't actually been sufficiently enough in actually helping prevent the
Point of
spread of
information,
AIDS
Speaker.
in our society? I'll take you later. Thank you. And Chair, I'd like to move on with another one of our arguments. Now, Chair, with that actually being said, have the young people actually been sufficient enough and actually involved enough in actually helping cater for the spread of AIDS, actually helping in the reducing of AIDS in society? No, they haven't. And why is this true? Because we've actually seen that there's actually a continuous rise of AIDS in society. From what they have actually, from the recklessness and from the impulse of the youth
Point of
themselves.
information,
Yes, though
Honourable Speaker.
they are in the know, they are actually acting recklessly. Because realize that youth today, they have that sense of invisibility, where they be like, I may not even attract this disease, or like, I feel like I can't get this disease anymore because really it has been around
Point of
everyone, I'm
information,
not
Speaker.
even getting it at all. So therefore, they act out of recklessness because of that invisibility complex. So with that actually being said, shall realize that with actually youths actually living on like this, that means that there will even be more rise of AIDS in their world, and Chair today is actually who is actually going to solve who is actually going to cater for so Chair, what is in today's debate is actually going to solve the problem, or actually who is going to achieve this vision by 2030 better. Now Chair, realize in our world what we're actually proposing to you is actually by actually providing people with actually jobs and actually providing people with actual jobs in order to actually achieve this much more better. With that actually being said, we actually see that there's even a much more better, or there's a much more catering for who's going to reduce much more AIDS in our world. So Chair, with that actually being said, I believe that in our debate, we've actually catered for these things much more better than in the proposition as well. Thank you.
We thank that speaker for that speech. I would like to call upon the final speaker from Team Proposition. Here.
I'd like to begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, never before in my life have I had to stand before astounded guests and present the obvious. Now, when dealing with this specific motion, I want to call to your attention what our first speaker said. She already stood before you all and characterized young people as being between 13 and 22. Look at us debaters. Currently myself, I am 18, and I'm wondering, the opposition side, are they above 22? Are they being reckless? Are they not part of a debate that is spreading awareness on HIV/AIDS and the youth involvement in it? Exactly. So their points are null and void, especially when being put in a status quo. Now, another thing I'd like to call to your attention, panel, is that our first speaker said that we would present you with two things. First of all, we will present you with evidence that the government has introduced policies that the youth are taking part of. Again, now these youth people, they are standing up. We are standing up. As the Kitante Primary School said, we are the ones fighting. We are the ones availing ourselves to such policies, and that is our participation. Now, regarding the burden between proposition and opposition, as you all know, proposition has the burden of proof. We have proved to you, we have given you multiple examples. I stand in the same spot where Mr. Y stood and tried and appealed to all of us in the House, especially to those in power, in order to fight AIDS. And you cannot tell me that really the youth people haven't been sufficiently involved in the fight. Now, there was a point raised by opposition, and they were supposed to give us the burden of refutation. But one of their refutation points was that, of course, these young people are the ones having reckless sex. Again, a 14-year-old, okay, fine. These people are the ones having reckless sex. And of course, the government should provide jobs. How are jobs supposed to help us fight against HIV/AIDS? And then again, you have shown that people have HIV/AIDS. Sure, that is not part of the debate. The debate is supposed to, the debate as framed by our first speaker was directly pointing towards the youth's involvement. And we are here. We have shown you, we have proved to you, the House and panel, that the youth, 13 to 22 years of age, are actually involved in this fight. The opposition has not come and shown us anything that refutes this. So why even are we considering opposition's cases, of which there are weak and there are holes that we can see through? When we really look against how we have managed our burdens, and we look at the characterization, exactly how has our side affirmative not won? Thank you very much for your time and your attention.
We thank that speaker for that speech. I would like to call upon the final speaker of Team Opposition. Here.
I'd like to begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Chair, one thing I want to clarify about the motion is this motion isn't about side proposition saying that young people have been sufficiently involved and side opposition saying they haven't been sufficiently involved. The motion is about proposition proving that if these young people have been sufficiently involved, they are able to achieve Vision 2030, which is to end the high cases of AIDS in Uganda by 2030. And side opposition is to show that even if they have been sufficiently involved, it's not to the extent that Vision 2030 will be achieved. So now, Chair, 3 things I'm going to do for you in today's debate. I'm going to provide to you the clashes in today's debate. I'm going to give you the rebuttal. I'm going to rebuild and weigh. So let me start with the clashes of today's debate. Today's debate has mainly focused on 2 clashes: the achievement of Vision 2030 and eradicating effort. So now let me start with the achievement of Vision 2030. My speakers came here and talked about how in proposition's world, where yes, to a certain extent, the young people have been sufficiently involved. But the fact that they have talked about is that they have talked about how young people are taking initiative. Yes, but these people are a minority. These young people are a minority in the group who are taking an initiative. The majority of the people are actually the old people, the wise people, and the people who are who have experienced the effects of AIDS, not the young people. So now this brings us to my first case that my first speaker talked about, the continuous rise of AIDS. We talk about how these young people, they are reckless, rejected. These young people, one of the characterizations my first speaker gave is that they are reckless, they act without thinking of the consequences, and then they are impulsive. So that means that these people will act in certain ways that they will not think about the consequences of what they do. In the case of, let's say, a 22-year-old in university wants to go to, let's say, a bar in order to celebrate. They will drink and maybe they will get drunk, and in the end they'll have sex unprotected, and they may end up getting the AIDS and end up increasing the rise of AIDS. So now why is it bad that these people, that there's this continuous rise? It means there will be more cases of AIDS. It means the spread of AIDS will be higher, and it means there will be more death rates. Now, our second argument brought to you by my second speaker was how we as side opposition would achieve Vision 2030 better than side proposition. We talked about giving these young people jobs in order to combat the idleness that most young people face. If you look at the current young people in today's status quo, most of them face the problem of idleness. And when they are idle, they go and look for things to relieve their idleness. And one of these things can be things that are harmful to them, things that may end up spreading HIV/AIDS, like, let's say, underage sex. So now if you give these people jobs, that means they will be able to be occupied, you combat this idleness, and they'll be able to go out and be productive members of society rather than them being idle. They go, they have underage sex, and then they actually become a burden to the government. So now, Chair, the side proposition came here and talked about the burden of proof. They talked about how their burden was to prove to us that these young people have been sufficiently involved. But they have failed to understand that their burden isn't just to prove that young people have been sufficiently involved. They have to prove to us how these young people have been sufficiently involved enough to achieve Vision 2030. So now let me move on to my comparison, Chair. In our world, we give you a world where these people have where we give the youth a way to combat the idleness that exists in proposition world. We show you the problems that are in propositions world. Our proposition just comes here and talks about something that doesn't exist in our side at all, eradicating efforts. Chair, I rest my case.
We thank that speaker for that speech. I would like to call upon the reply speaker of Team Opposition in a minute. Ready when you are.
.7 Ginger, 98.6 Soroti. You are all covered.
UBC Butego.
Yikwa dola wini kune. Arasanda Murillo.
Atekeri naite saibi jasesi. UBC Butego.
Of Uganda and industrialization, this has increased pressure on the natural resources, resulting into environmental degradation and global warming. Developing countries like Uganda could face 80% of the global climate change effects by the year 2030 if no action is taken. Join us here on UBC TV, Inspiring Uganda, on our Eco Plus program, where we bring you an in-depth analysis of issues that are disastrous to our environment. Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. only on your loved station, the National Broadcaster.
Roasted potato asparagus and arugula salad. Summer has officially arrived, so let's celebrate with this wonderful roasted potato. Asparagus and arugula salad. It is super easy to make, does not require a lot of ingredients, and is delicious. Ingredients: 1 lb small yellow potatoes, quartered, olive oil